All right, everybody, today I'm going to walk you through making some pork belly burnt ends. What you're going to need for that is a pair of gloves, an 8-pound pork belly cubed into 1.5 by 1.5 inch cubes, your favorite spice rub, apple juice, apple jelly, and your favorite barbecue sauce. I'm really partial to a local here. It's called Ben's Sweet Hot. I really like it because it's got a little bit of sweet, a little bit of heat to it. And that's what I use for most of my barbecue. And then a little later, we're gonna be making armadillo eggs, and I'll take you through the ingredients you need for those as we walk through making those. So I got my ruler here, trying to just eyeball what 1.5 inches is to get myself started. And then I'll go back through and cut all the way through. And you want to try to be as consistent as possible so that it cooks evenly for each piece. So now I'll just go through and finish cutting these. So now we're going to take our strips, our 1.5 inch strips, and we're going to cube them into 1.5 inch cubes. And as I do this, when I'm done with each strip, I'm just going to throw it into the bowl beside me to then toss the rub on all of it when I'm done. Okay, now that we have our pork belly in cubes, I'm going to use one hand to handle the pork belly, and I'll just put a handful or two in the bowl at a time. I'm going to use my clean hand, grab some of my rub, sprinkle it over, again using my contaminated hand to not cross-contaminate, give those a toss, and I'm going to put them on my clean tray. And we're just going to keep doing this until everything has a nice coat of rub. Now we're going to come outside and get the smoker ready. We're going to add some water, and then I'll get the chips ready for when we put the chips in and put the pork into the smoker. So the first thing we're going to do, open up the smoker. There's a water tray to keep things moist inside the smoker while you're cooking. We've already taken a couple of shelves off so we can put the pork belly on those shelves. Once it gets up to temperature, we'll add our wood chips, and then I'll put those racks in with the pork belly. So I use a propane smoker. I'll turn the tank on. I want to get this thing up to around 250. Once it reaches that or just a little bit over, then we'll put the pork in. It'll come down when you put the cooler meat in. Want to keep it between 225 and 250. We're going to smoke it for 2 hours that way. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some wood chips. I like a little bit of cherry and a little bit of apple. You don't have to use both. It's just my personal preference. Whatever tastes good to you. In your smoke, a lot of people are partial to just apple alone. I like that little bit of sweetness that the cherry adds to it. Okay, next, we're gonna take our pork belly and get it laid out on our racks. I pulled a couple racks out of the smoker. I like to spray it down with Pam just because it makes for easier cleanup. All right, so we've reached the 2-hour mark. I'm now gonna grab these cubed bacon burnt ends. I'm gonna get them put into a tray. And then we'll take them inside. We're gonna add some brown sugar, some honey, and some butter, and then let them braise for another 2 hours after that. Okay, now we're gonna take and put some brown sugar over the pork belly, drizzle it with honey, and then add 2 sticks of butter because I have a little bit more, 50% more of a amount than the recipe calls for of the pork belly. And you can always do a little bit extra if you feel like having it just be a little bit sweeter, but this just ends up turning into a braising liquid and just makes this stuff melt in your mouth. So we got our brown sugar. Okay, next we're gonna add our honey. I love these bottles from Costco because you can just drizzle it over the top. Get that honey for the money. Just a little bit more. Okay, and then we're gonna take 2 sticks of butter and slice those pats up throughout. And then we're gonna take some heavy-duty aluminum foil, wrap that real tight, and then put it back in the smoker at 250 for 2 more hours. We'll check the temperature of a few of these. We wanna get them to about 205 degrees, but that should take about 2 hours. And when this is done braising, we'll pull it out, dump the braising liquid out, and I'll be making a finishing glaze. And that's what we use the apple jelly, apple juice, and the barbecue sauce for. I've got the braising all set. I wrapped it in heavy-duty aluminum foil. Come back over to the smoker. Again, we want to keep it around 250. We'll slide this in. We're going to let this baby glaze for a couple hours. Or braise, I should say. So next we're going to make our braising liquid. This is when you need your apple juice, apple jelly, and your barbecue sauce. Now the recipe calls for a 1/4 cup of apple juice and a 1/4 cup of apple jelly. I'm doing a little bit more than that because I have a larger pork belly than what the recipe calls for. So we're going to take this and put it in our saucepan. And then our barbecue sauce. We're going to combine all these and then we're going to simmer it just to get it all mixed together. And then we'll use that when it's time to do the finishing glaze on the pork belly burnt ends. Okay, next we're going to make our armadillo eggs. For the armadillo eggs, I have some jalapenos. We're going to need cream cheese. I put pepper jack cheese mixed with the cream cheese. I think it adds a little bit extra bite in the center of the jalapeno. I got some breakfast sausage. I just bought some Bob Evans for today. And then some bacon. So I'm going to take the jalapenos, I'm going to wash them, and then we'll come back and we'll trim and core the jalapenos. Okay, now we're just going to chop our jalapeno tips off. I like to wear rubber gloves when I'm cutting peppers that are spicy. That way I don't have to worry about rubbing my eyes. I just take the gloves off when I'm done. And no issues. Try to get as much of the seeds out as you can, but it certainly doesn't have to be perfect, but it'll just tone them down the more membrane you get out. So that if there's people that aren't big fans of heat, they aren't getting scalded. Okay, now we're gonna take our cored jalapenos and we're gonna fill it with our stuffing. I just use a spoon, just kind of work it in until it's full. There, and then once it's filled, I'll just set it on the tray to the side and grab the next one. All right, so I'm done stuffing all my jalapenos. I ended up with a little bit of extra stuffing. Perfectly fine to take this, put it in a freezer bag or some sort of Ziploc and freeze that, and then the next time you want, you've already got your stuffing for the jalapenos. All right, so the next thing we do is we take our sausage, and I'm just gonna kind of like flatten it out and get a little bit, flatten it out in my hand. And then what you do is just work it around the jalapeno. And if you need a little more, you just grab a little bit more. Work it in until it's completely covered in sausage. Now I'm just gonna take that, set it on the tray. And just do that with all of your jalapenos until they're all covered in sausage. And then we'll circle back here in a little bit and cover them in bacon. All right, next we're gonna take our bacon and we're gonna take the sausages or the eggs that we've already wrapped in sausage. And now we are going to wrap it in bacon. And you can use 1 or 2 pieces, just depends on how big the jalapeno is. This one is a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna take and go around it a couple times, and then I'm gonna place it on my Bradley rack for later. And we'll just keep doing this with the rest. Okay, so we have our Armadillo eggs on my Bradley racks. I'm gonna take these out and we're just gonna slide them in just underneath. All right, so it's been a couple hours. I'll slide this out, check a few of them to see if we've reached 205 yet. Oh, those look good. Okay, now I've got my glaze that I had been simmering on the stove. I'm just gonna drizzle this over. We'll give it a toss. Put in the smoker for another 5 to 10 minutes. And these bad boys are ready to eat.
5 minutes later.
So our armadillo eggs are done. Took about an hour and a half, maybe just a little bit longer. I'm gonna pull these out and put them in the tray.